do you want me to do an introduction for you, or do you want to introduce yourself, or a bit of both?
You can do one for me.
I feel, you know what? Because this is like the first podcast, it's a bit strange. I don't know how to introduce it, but okay, we'll go something along the lines of, hello and welcome. This is the first podcast, and today we have Channon on, and she is the blog owner of the Perpetual Itch. Did I just say it right?
Yeah.
And we are going to talk today about topical steroid withdrawal and a little bit about Anna's story, because I feel like it's a topic that needs to be discussed more. More pharmacists and healthcare professionals out there need to understand that topical steroid withdrawal is a thing, and that just raise awareness for it, really, because not a lot of people know about it. And when you see someone in the pharmacy with worsening rashes or worsening eczema, it can be missed if you don't know about it. So it's really just to bring some awareness about it all. So welcome, Anna.
Thank you. It's good to be on. How does
it feel to be our first guest?
It's an honour.
No, it's an honour to have you. Oh, is it?
Yeah.
But then did you say that you've got another podcast with somebody?
Possibly. They said that because I had so much to say, they might do like an article on me instead of a podcast.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to be fair, like, when we did our pre-planning for this podcast, I did think, I was like, how the hell are we going to fit everything into?
It was like a 2-hour call, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that was just pre-planning. So you never know, there might be a part 2 if people are interested.
Ooh. Exciting.
Very. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your story then, and a bit about your journey?
Yeah. So I started out with eczema, and I'd never had it before until I turned 18. And that was around the times when my A-levels started. And it started out as like a tiny patch on my neck that looked like a hickey. Sorry, I don't know if I'm shouting because I've got my headphones on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought the same.
But I thought it was a hickey until it like just didn't disappear. And I was given Betnovate for it, which was totally unusual because Betnovate's pretty strong. It's classed as a potent steroid. And from there, over the course of 2 years, the rash just spread everywhere. And eventually I got trapped in Ireland over lockdown, and I was pretty much forced to go into withdrawal. But I think it was going to happen anyway sometime soon, because at that point the steroids had stopped working. Like, I would literally apply them in the evening, and then the next morning the eczema would be back and worse than before. So yeah, and then now I'm 10 months in to withdrawals, and I don't know, it's going. Yeah, I don't know, I'm kind of learning how to deal with it and what my triggers are, and yeah.
So can you tell us what steroid withdrawal actually is then?
Yeah, so from my understanding, basically steroids, they mimic cortisol, and this kind of reduces the inflammatory response, which is eczema, and they reduce, the appearance of the redness, the itchiness, and the dry skin. And then once you get off them, I think your body just kind of like can't cope with not having that excess cortisol anymore.
Yeah, I've done a bit of research into it, and it's like no one really understands it. No one really knows why or how, but it's not. And especially when you come into the pharmacy as well, it just kind of looks like eczema. And when you look at it at face value, you don't really as a healthcare professional, you'll just look at it and think, oh, that's like a type of eczema or psoriasis or some kind of skin condition, and I don't really think they think about, oh, well, has it got worse, or what was it like before? Because I don't know if you've experienced, like, what kind of healthcare professionals have you seen? Have you seen different ones or the same one every time? Does that make an impact on how you've been treated and what you've been prescribed?
So I saw a couple of GPs, and then I was referred to a dermatologist eventually after a lot of fighting to get referred. And they both, I mean, all three of them prescribed me a different type of steroid in varying potencies, and again, like, they didn't check to see if it had got worse, like why it got worse, and like they just didn't really bother to ask that, or ask how I'd been using them and how often. And I feel like there's just a lack of, like, checking up on patients when it comes to this, and that's the whole problem. That's why so many people get addicted to them. But and there was no effort to search for a more holistic approach and see, like, why the eczema was there in the first place. They just prescribed steroids straight away.
So when you say people they can get addicted to steroid creams, what do you mean by that? Do you mean the physical effects, they see the skin starting to clear up, so they carry on applying more, or in a different way?
Yeah, I mean, from my experience and, like, from other people's experiences, I've heard a lot of them since I've kind of joined this skincare community online, and an awful lot of us, like, I would say probably 95% of us, just never were told how to use these properly. I was never told that I shouldn't be using them for more than 2 weeks, and where I shouldn't be using them, because you shouldn't be using them, like, on your face or, on really thin areas. And people, they get really stressed out, say, they see their skin getting worse and they panic and put more on because that's what the doctor said would help. And there's just such a lack of control there.
So regarding the community of people on dealing with topical steroid withdrawal, what's the community out there like? I know in the previous conversation we had, you talked about Scratch That, an organisation that helps people with topical steroid withdrawal. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
So in general, the community is, like, the most supportive community I've ever seen online. Like, it's really wholesome. And there was a group of people going through topical steroid withdrawal, and together they created Scratch That, which is based in the UK, and they just provide, like, support and some resources for people going through this, because it's so unlike anything you've ever seen before in your life. And they provide kind of resources for doctors as well if they're struggling to understand what this is all about. And they're really just doing some really good work.
I mean, I saw you post on your Instagram page, on your blog, you reshared a picture from Scratch That, and I think it was a woman, and her skin condition had got that bad it kind of looked like red man syndrome, where she had, like, her face was absolutely covered in, like, it was just so inflamed and it just looked so tender. But then it showed you her after, and she looked like a completely different person. And I can't even imagine what she went through, like, psychologically as well as physically, the pain, the itching, and what went on inside. Would you be able to, like, talk to us about some of the psychological stresses that you went through with your skin condition?
Yeah, so to be honest, it's almost worse than the physical effects, because kind of the longer you go on, the longer you're wondering, how long am I going to have to put up with this? Like, this isn't living, because I, like, couldn't even leave the house, couldn't even leave my bed. I had to stop uni. And at some point I just, like, at the moment I'm looking for therapy because it's something that's going to stay with me forever. And there's just such a lot of resentment that I've got towards doctors because they should have seen this. They should be educated on it, and it was a completely preventable thing. And there is actually a documentary called Preventable about this.
About topical steroid withdrawal or eczema?
Topical steroid withdrawal.
Yeah.
And like at the start, I had a rebound flare, and I was like kind of so pleased because I'd finally found why my eczema was getting worse, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm gonna get through this, and I'm gonna be so much better. I might not even have eczema after this. And 10 months in, it kind of gets a bit old, and you just want to get back to living. And you've lived with 10 months of pain, and yeah, it's hard. And there are actually suicides reported. There's breakups in marriages. I mean, it's really destructive.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds awful. I mean, I don't know. I certainly want to have that because I think if I did it, I wouldn't want to go out to the shops or anything because you know how judgmental people can be out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's some really harsh people out there, and I don't think the whole social media situation helps where everybody looks their best on the pictures that they post because that they choose to post the best pictures. That's why I have a lot of respect for you when you do post pictures on your page about you looking at your worst, and you admit that, and you say, look, this needs to be talked about, and it's just like your journey. And I've seen that you've been doing a thread recently about recovery isn't linear, and how you've gone through a flare up, and then all of a sudden your skin's cleared up and it looks really good again, and then it's back to normal, and then you get another flare up. What are the stages that you've kind of been through, and what do you experience through the stages? You mentioned a recovery stage and a rebound stage as well.
Yeah. So the initial rebound stage is basically the actual withdrawal stage, because this whole thing is kind of a little bit misnamed in that it's that only the first part is actually the withdrawal, where you're coming off the drugs and your body just doesn't know what to do, and then after that, after the steroids have kind of like left your system, it's all about the body figuring out how to kind of regulate its own hormones. And then you kind of start getting into a recovery phase. And to be honest, most of my flare-ups, I believe right now, are down to triggers in the environment. So I can be completely clear at times. And at first, when I first got that clear stage, I was like, oh my God, I'm cured. It's so fast. And then I moved back to England, and it got colder and damp, and the mold started growing on the walls. And I've learned that I'm really sensitive to mold, and my skin blew up.
But before that, you weren't, were you? Before that, you weren't sensitive to any kind of allergens. It was only until you've been using your steroids for a bit and it's weakened your immune system, and then now you're sensitive to even the mold in your house.
Yeah. And baby oil, which is really surprising to me because, I started recovering a little bit recently, and then I made the mistake of trying baby oil, which I thought was safe because, it's for babies. And I think it was either the mineral oil in it, or I also heard that there's synthetic citric acid that's sometimes in that, and that's derived through black mold. Didn't know before this.
Oh, I didn't know that either. Yeah. How interesting.
Yeah, and my skin exploded again, and at some point after the baby oil incident, like I genuinely thought I needed to go to the hospital because I thought I had a really bad infection, and I was like in such bad shape. But now literally like I stopped using it straight away, and literally a week later I'm almost clear again.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. Well, it's good that you're clearing up now, I mean.
Yeah, I'm basking in it.
Yeah. When you, so did you see like one doctor, or was it a dermatologist that you saw that actually specialised in your condition?
No, I don't think there is anyone who specializes in this apart from like a couple of international doctors who've really dedicated their work to this. But like, there's nobody that I've heard of in the UK. There's like there's one clinic in the whole world that deals with this, which is in Singapore.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah,
I mean, I did a little bit of pre-work, and I just like did a little bit of a literature search on topical steroid withdrawal, and there's hardly anything in the literature.
yeah.
Like it's really, really not a well researched area at all. And but however, you said that the what authority was it? There was an authority that had recently acknowledged that steroid topical withdrawal is actually a thing, because
Mhm.
a lot of people a lot of doctors have been denying it for quite some time now and saying that topical steroid withdrawal isn't a thing, but then the organisation for
It's the
the
National Eczema
organisation,
Society. Yeah.
that's the one, International Eczema Society, they finally came forward recently and said actually topical steroid withdrawal is a thing, acknowledge it. But I don't really feel like that message has been pushed out very well. Do people know about this?
Not at all. And it's actually crazy because those two societies. So there's the National Eczema Society and there's the British Association of Dermatologists. I think that's what it's called. And it's crazy because that's only in England, and it's great that we're taking the first step. But they didn't push it at all. It was just like a little subsection in one of their statements to kind of acknowledge that it existed.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly not. I follow so many pharmaceutical pages on like my Instagram, my Facebook, just to keep learning when you're scrolling, make it scrolling productive. But I've not seen any coverage on steroid, and I know you can't cover every single condition there is out there and every single issue that there is out there. But to say that it's recently been approved, I haven't really seen anything in the media.
Yeah.
But then there is an argument out there about gaslighting. I think you told me about this in the last session, about doctors gaslighting. And so you'd go to your doctor and then you say, look, my eczema's getting worse. I'm using the steroids that you told me to use and it's just spreading and it's getting worse. And then the doctor's reaction to that is, oh, no, don't worry, you're probably not using it right, or it's just a bad reaction to steroids, and then they give you a different one. Do you think that's actually quite common? Have you experienced that?
It's really common, just because it's something that they've never, heard, and they've seen patients using steroids and being fine for years and years. And my dad actually, I was on the phone to him the other day, and he told me, no matter how many facts you bring up, no matter how many case studies you bring up, I'm not going to believe you about this. I'm not going to believe that you're going through this, because I've seen so many patients use more steroids than you. And I mean, some people have such severe eczema that they just have to use that many steroids and they're fine. And I told him, Dad, if their eczema is that severe, they're probably addicted and just don't know it.
Wow. And your dad believed that as well. And what does he think to it now after you've gone through this journey and he's seeing that you are experienced topical steroid withdrawal? What does he think?
So he still doesn't believe that I'm going through it, which is sad.
He still doesn't believe?
No, yeah, he literally just told me, like, no matter what you say, I'm not going to believe you. There is nothing that you can say. Even
though, have you shown that the National Eczema Society has recognised this?
Yeah, he says that he acknowledges that it is a thing. He just doesn't believe that I'm going through it, even though I'm literally the textbook example. Like, I have all the symptoms. My skin looks exactly the same as everyone else's. Yeah, he's in denial.
And how long have you not been using steroids for now?
10 months. Yeah. But it's because, so he believed that if I was off steroids, that it should have gone away like really quickly. which is not the case because it's not just withdrawal, it is the body trying to regulate itself again. And that's the problem with, that the Eczema Society and the British Dermatologist Association are coming out saying that it's great and it's a great first step. But then if doctors still don't know how it presents, how long it takes to recover from it, they're not going to believe it anyway, even if they know it exists.
I mean, especially like to a doctor to say you're 10 months without steroids, how can you still be having that? Like, that should be completely out of your system by now.
Mm-hmm.
But in actual fact, like they could just think, oh yeah, you've just got eczema, you need to use your cream because you've got eczema.
Yeah, but it's crazy because there are literally so many case studies that I could show you, where it's been nobody under a year has recovered, like nobody, and it's all been maybe 2 to 5 years as the average. And
Wow,
after
that's
that,
a long time.
it is a long time, and it's a long time to live with something as hard as this. But literally after that, it's completely gone. And they go through that period of time looking dreadful, and then how can it suddenly disappear if it's really aggravated eczema, you know?
Yeah, I mean, to say that you could be living with this for up to 5 years, like, how do you feel like about that? Do you have a good support system around you? I know we mentioned scratch that, but is there anything else out there that can help?
I mean, to be honest, I'm pretty optimistic at the moment because I now know that it's triggered by things in my environment and stuff that I use, and it feels like I'm a bit more in control now, just because there was no pattern before, and I'm fairly confident that I will not be doing this until 5 years because I didn't use them for a long time. Like, some people are using them for 40 years and then they come off and they're 5+ years into it.
Wow.
But yeah, I have my boyfriend who has been an absolute saviour. Yeah, he's looked after me on my worst
He's
days.
been amazing, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, the other day, what brought you an apple pie with a cup of tea when we was planning the podcast. Bless him, he's so cute.
He's been amazing, really. He's had so much patience.
Yeah, he's a lovely lad. So what's your kind of strategy for going forward? Was it looking at your triggers and seeing, like, journaling about it? What are your strategies for moving forward to deal with the topical steroid withdrawal?
Yeah, so I think if I'm trying something new, I'm only going to try one new thing at a time, like one new food or one new product, because then I know exactly, like, if my skin goes bad, it has to be that. And I'll just stop using it. And it is a thing of just figuring it out really slowly, because right at the moment, since my skin's getting better, I assume that there are no triggers around. So now that I have a clean sheet, if my skin blows up, I can pinpoint it to something.
Yeah, I mean, you're keeping this, so you're keeping this diary, and then you actually are finding out certain things trigger your flare-ups. Do you maybe think that that's maybe where doctors should start looking at to help with the treatment of it? Do you think they should start looking into holistic methods of being like, oh well, if you found out that mold flares up your eczema, then kind of stay away from that, or if a certain food flares up your eczema? Do you maybe think that we should start looking at holistic methods towards that? Do you know of any holistic methods that have worked or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they should really start looking at how you live your life first before prescribing any kind of drugs, because any drugs can have side effects. It's a little bit of lazy medicine, like if you have a rash, to not look at, like, are you stressed? Because I feel like that's why mine started. Like, I had exam stress. Like, what's your diet like? It makes so much more sense to sort out your lifestyle rather than put you on a drug that could have potential side effects.
Speaking about the adverse effects of the drugs, what what adverse effects have you experienced from being on so many steroids? Because you was on about 5 different steroids at one point, and then you ended up getting given Umavate, and then you was just like, nah, I'm done. I'm not going on anymore.
So the one side effect that they talk about is thinning of skin. And I have experienced that, and I still have really thin skin, to the point where like I have fake nails on, and if I like rub my nails for like, I don't know, a minute, if I'm scratching, my skin will be gone. I'll have an open wound, like it's so thin. They're better than, making like bleeding wounds, but yeah. Apart from that, I've also had really bad issues with thermoregulation. Like my body just can't regulate its own temperature at all. So I'm always cold no matter what. And insomnia, like loss of appetite. I've lost a lot of weight since I started this. Like my rings just fall off me.
Yeah, because your body is trying to work 10 to the dozen to try and upregulate your immune system and things like that, and keep you warm. So you're just burning so much fat.
Yeah. And then on top of that, I've had the really red skin, so the red skin syndrome, and the sleeves. That is the kind of the first sign that you have it is the red skin syndrome, right. Which is these burning red sleeves that actually I think they must lose a lot of heat. Yeah. But I think that's because they've been kind of repressed by the steroids for so long, and then once you stop, it kind of like your body, I don't know, it goes mad, and you get 10 times the effect that you would have normally had. And that's like, you might have a little bit of red skin if you have normal eczema, and then once you come off this, the effects are multiplied and you're just really red all over. But I've also had bone deep itch, which is caused by nerve damage.
Oh yeah, do you want to explain that?
Yeah, so I have a lot of nerve damage, and basically when you're healing, like your nerves are healing and you get this bone deep itch, and it's literally just something like no itch that you've ever had before. Dreadful, and it keeps you up at night. But also when your skin is healing as well, basically I think you get like signals sent to your brain that say that your skin is being stimulated. So I guess it's kind of a feeling that you always have something on your skin. And a lot of people have, they describe the feeling of bugs crawling all over them.
Oh, heck.
Yeah, horrible. Yeah.
You mentioned that, I can't remember the woman's name, but her username is TSW_Atlas. And she summarised the bone deep itch really well. Do you want to talk a little bit about how she did that?
I think her name is Heba Khaled. I'm not sure I really remember how she described that, so if you remember.
No, I just remember that in our pre-talk, you said that she had some really good resources out there. So anybody struggling with topical steroid withdrawal, or healthcare professionals or trainee healthcare professionals that wanted any kind of research or resources or anything like that to find out more about the condition, she's a really good person to have a look. But let's talk about your insomnia and your hallucinations, because that was a good story. Not good for you, but
it's the funny side. I look back at it and I laugh now. But yeah, so in the first stages, in my rebound stage, when I just wasn't getting any sleep at all, like I was on about like 2 or 3 weeks no sleep at this point, and I'd kind of be like, when you're like not quite asleep, but you're not quite like conscious either. And I was having like hallucinations. Basically the coronavirus pandemic had just started, and there was a lot of talk about China in the news, And I had this burning skin, and basically I started hallucinating that Chinese men were throwing acid all over my body.
It's so crazy what you see and if you're constantly hearing about things in the news, it just makes you stick. Like when I was a kid, I had some weird dreams because of seeing things on the TV, and the more you watch a certain TV program, it stuck in my mind in a weird way, and I ended up having a really weird dream where I was on a pirate ship. I was on a pirate ship, and there was the game Popeye. Like where it's this pirate in a carrel. No, what is it called? In a barrel.
I'm not sure.
A barrel, not a carol. I'm getting mixed up between Christmas and anyway. There was a pirate in a barrel. I said it again. And you put the sword in, and then eventually when you put so many swords in, he pops out. Well, I was on a pirate ship, and I was just looking around me in this dream, and there was loads of pirates in the barrels popping out, running after me. It's things like that just... Dreams are so bizarre, aren't they?
Yeah, the mind does some weird stuff.
Yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, like... having hallucinations like that's actually quite scary, but looking back on it now, like, you can laugh about it, but at the time,
I was terrified at the time.
Yeah, it'd be so scary at the time. Have you had any other weird hallucinations like that when you first went cold turkey?
I had one other, which is, I can't remember what it was called, but basically I dreamt that it might have been called like Fred or something. I dreamt that my body was like a circuit, and it was being run by like little men, and basically I dreamt or hallucinated that one of the little men called like Fred was screwing up my circuit, and that's why my skin was like kind of reacting badly.
How bizarre.
Yeah, and so I was like kind of like shouting around, going like, Fred, stop it! Like,
start talking in your sleep, and your boyfriend's going, who's Fred? So how do you keep positive when all of this is going on top of COVID? How do you keep yourself together and stay happy? What are your tips?
To be honest, I've learned to really appreciate any type of improvement, even if I'm still having a bad day. If I feel slightly better, or if there's something that's like going better for me, I really like take it and run with it. And right now, now that I'm feeling a bit better, I'm like really enjoying it. And I think it's really taught me to appreciate just good health. And I'm always just looking forward to the next time that I'm going to be in good health. Yeah. And I don't know, when I'm having a bad day, I just let myself have a bad day. I let myself cry. And to be honest, a really good cry is like the best thing ever, and you feel 100 times better afterwards.
It really helps. Like, even if you're suffering from like things like stress, anxiety, like all those, just when it all gets too much, have a good old cry, and then tackle it with a new set of eyes, and then it seems to work out.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I was really surprised when I did do a search in the literature, and I didn't see that there was many papers or much research about it at all. Why do you think that is? Is it a politically sensitive discussion?
Yeah, so this is where Big Pharma comes into the story, and it's so crazy because I'm not exactly like, don't quote me on this timeline, but from my understanding, steroids have kind of been around since maybe like the 70s or 80s, and you would have thought that, since eczema is such a not popular, it's such a common thing, like in skin diseases, you would have thought that there would be a cure by now, not just a treatment, not just something to mask your symptoms, but an actual cure. And there is a big theory in the community that the reason why there is no cure and the reason why there is no research is because steroids are a multi-billion dollar industry. And if they were going to do research into it and find all these bad side effects, they're going to lose a lot of money. And if there's a cure, then they're going to lose a lot of money because there'll be no one left to treat.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a huge potential conflict of interest there between this whole situation, because I don't want to paint everybody with a bad brush, but there's been so many cases of it in the past where people at the top of the chain in the big pharma have just got too greedy, and it's those people that just paint a bad brush on the whole profession, and it's really not acceptable. We're all not like that. Us pharmacy students are told to always put the patient first, and where we can, don't give them drugs. That's like one of the biggest points, is that pharmacy students are taught when well, certainly at my school anyway, but we're taught always put the patient first. If they don't need to be on these medications, then don't give them it. We're taught when we do clinical checks, we're taught that we have to look at the necessity of these tablets for this patient. Does this patient really need to be on 20 medications? And like the whole issue surrounding polypharmacy is a whole different podcast topic, but it's maybe a potential discussion to have, but it's a very sensitive topic. But I really do understand why people in your community think that's a thing, especially when you've lived it and you've gone through it. And there's been so many people like you that have come forward to the doctors, have come forward to professionals and said, look, like, I'm not on topical steroids anymore and my skin condition's getting worse. And they just gaslight it and be like, oh no, it's probably just a bad reaction to this or this or this. And I don't think no one's actually taken it seriously up until recently. So I'm really glad that they have, because seeing your stories really made me realise I never knew it was a thing until before I met you, and this is why I asked you to come on the podcast, because this is something that needs to be talked about, and people, especially healthcare professionals, just need to be have it in the back of their mind. So if they do have a patient in the future that comes in with this condition, they've got it in the back of their mind, and they can think, oh, I know what this potentially could be. But also to think before they prescribe as well. Not always giving a steroid's the right thing to do, and I think you'd agree there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually really glad that the awareness around this is actually increasing, and I think it's going to be exponential from here, because actually literally this week or last week, a really big YouTuber called Joanna Cedia, who has 3.2 million subscribers, she posted a video on her page saying that she was going through it, which is such a huge thing, because there's nobody really like famous who is going through this, but it's because like she has such a massive platform and millions of people are going to see it.
She can really use her voice for the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And if more people are aware of this, and if more people are shouting about it, like, then there will be action that can be taken. Like, you need to put pressure on the big pharma, the doctors, to kind of learn and change.
And it's not also about telling and raising awareness for the healthcare professionals to make a difference and recognise it. It's also to people like you who thought, oh, I'll just take a steroid, I'll just apply a bit more steroid, it's not clearing up very well, I'll just put another bit more on. Oh, it's flaring up, I'll put a bit more on. And it's making people like that with these conditions aware of the dangers that topical steroids can pose, and it's educating these people on how to use them properly.
Yeah, absolutely. And like it's really worth saying that I believe steroids do have a place in the medical field. Like, they've been beyond helpful for this pandemic. But it is kind of just lazy medicine to just prescribe them straight away. And that's what happened with the antibiotics disaster, where they were just being handed out like candy when, you need to stop for a second and think.
But yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you there. There's absolutely nothing wrong with using topical steroids, and I just want to make it clear that there is a big difference between oral steroids, as in steroids that you take in a tablet, and topical steroids.
Mm-hmm.
Topical steroids are to reduce inflammation of topical skin conditions like eczema and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's another point. It's just trying to raise awareness for people for pharmacists and doctors and any other healthcare professional that could be giving steroids to patients, is to try and educate them on how and counsel them properly on how to use these steroid creams, because the misuse of them has led to horrific skin conditions like yours that is unbearable. Like the effects that you've had to deal with. You're a very strong person for dealing with it all and getting through it.
But yeah, you'd think, since it is such a common treatment, you'd think that there would be some kind of protocol that would be drilled into doctors, like questions to ask, instructions to give. Yeah.
What is it?
I don't know what he's trying to ask me, but he was just standing at the door going, no idea what he's trying to ask me.
He's probably asking if you want another apple pie.
Going like,
another apple pie, my
get away! Get away!
Oh, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Anna. I really appreciate it.
That's all right. But I mean, if there's any interest in it, I feel like there is still quite a lot to talk about. Just stuff that I've kind of been thinking about during this as well. But if a part 2 is wanted, then I will gladly oblige.
Absolutely. And I mean, this is quite a general topic, but we could even do another podcast talking about like specifically your side effects, or like we can delve into it a little bit more. I'm more than happy to do that. From seeing your journey and seeing your pictures of all the crap that you've had to deal with, I almost swore on a podcast. All the stuff that you've had to deal with has really made me think, like, wow, like I'm so lucky that I don't have a skin condition like that, and more people need to know about it. And as a healthcare profession, we just need to be aware of it so we can watch out for it in the future. And help people in the right way. 100%.
But I've had so many messages of like people that I know saying like, oh my god, I can't believe I never knew about this. I'm a dentistry student and I always have to ask my patients if they're on steroids, and now I know that, if they're having any problems with it, maybe they should look into that. And it's really exciting to kind of be at the front of this big change that I feel like is going to happen soon, because there is just so much more coming out these days. But it is something that's like completely life-changing, like the fact that people have to quit their jobs because they're just too ill, and the fact that like some marriages break up, like it is really something that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. So one thing that I actually didn't mention, or I don't think I mentioned when we were doing this kind of pre-chat, was that a lot of people are put on Protopic and also oral steroids. And a lot of the time it kind of sorts it short term, and then it stops working again. And then when they come off, it even, like a lot of people have experienced even worse withdrawal, and it starts them again.
Wow. From
like the beginning, and they have to go through it all, and it takes even longer to stop. And then they have, side effects like, I think in cyclosporine, they have a lot of like eye damage. And dry eyes is something that I've experienced as a side effect as well. like to the point where I can't even like move my eyes in the morning. But it's, you know, the fact that in response to this, oh, your topical steroids aren't working, let's just give you more drugs as a solution.
Wow, I think we better wrap it up now.
Yeah.
We've been on here for quite a while.
Yeah, 50 minutes.
I just want to ask you a final question. So I'm going to do this thing, so whenever I have a guest on, I'm going to ask them this question at the end of the podcast. Just something funny, a bit lightheaded to end the podcast with. So if you could get rid of anything and put it into a box and it be erased from society, what would it be? It can be anything. It can be an object. It could be a thing someone does. Absolutely anything. What's a pet hate? Anything that you can just put into a box, kind of like Room 101. Put into a box and then it gets erased from society.
Probably Photoshop.
Yeah.
I think it's so toxic, and it's created some really unrealistic standards. And I feel like social media in general is such a negative space, and you're always feeling like you have to be better and look better and be like this person, when I think we just need to preach a bit of self-love right now.
Right, well, thank you very much, Anna.
Thank you for having me.
If you have been affected by topical steroid withdrawal, Anna and I mentioned a really good resource called Scratch That. They provide so many resources to help people with topical steroid withdrawal, but also learning resources too for healthcare professionals to become aware of the issue. I'm Jessie, and thank you for listening to the Casual Consultation Clinic.